Hi, I'm Kevin Eithth. Today I'd like to talk to you about time. There's just so much of it. The title of this is an 8-day week, and I'll explain that because we have to make the most of our time. But how do we decide that? I mean, there are so many things that demand time that seem urgent. We must take care of our marriage, we've got to take care of our children, we need to take care of our study, our pastoring, our responsibilities, or whatever we're leading at the time. So many things pulling at us. And if you don't control your time, someone else will. What I found is if I don't control my calendar, someone else will. You'll spend your entire life responding or reacting to what seems to be the urgent at the time and never really be as efficient as you could be. And often it's because we don't move back or take a large scope approach at our time. I remember speaking once about time and time with family, and my daughter was 8 at that particular time, and I said, I calculated I have 520 more Saturdays with my daughter Anna. Well, today she's a mom of 3, and I'm very thankful that I did the very best I could to utilize those 520 Saturdays I had until she graduated high school. All that to say, it's just good to look at an overview of where you feel like God is leading you to go and make the very best of your time, where you think that would be most effective. I'm reminded back in Joshua 24, man, when Joshua was saying, and I'm not taking this out of context at all, when he says, hey, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord, there was a sense of immediacy about it. Hey, look, regardless of what you do, I'm going to do this because this is what I value. He determined he was going to spend his time in what he valued most. And I think you can often tell what we cherish or what we idolize or what we prioritize by where we spend our time. People often say you can know what you value most by looking at your checkbook or how you spend your money. That's true, but where you spend your time says a lot about you. I just want you to be the most effective minister, most effective leader you possibly can, and you have to be proactive in doing that. It's not something that just happens. I think we often struggle at being proactive with time management because there's a sense of guilt involved. So when you prioritize your time, you have to learn to say no. I mean, actually, you have to learn to say no much more than you say yes. And to know what to say no to and what to say yes to, those are things you have to pre-think. And that's why I'm saying you have to be proactive in thinking through it. And then relieving yourself of the guilt of saying no. And just knowing ahead of time, no, look, I've already set that aside for this. I prioritize family for this, and I'm not going to make that necessary adjustment, even though it's something I might enjoy. So all that to say, it's important to prioritize, and we struggle to find time to do the things that are important so often because our calendars are littered with things that are just not that important. At my age, I'm looking at, I'm not near retirement, but I do see the airport in sight in maybe 10 to 12 years and already calculate how many more weeks do I have to accomplish what I really feel like God has called me to do. And therefore, that's going to determine who I meet with and what I spend my time doing and what I focus on each of those quarters. So all that to say, man, I want to relieve some guilt today, but also I want to encourage you to be proactive in thinking through things. Some guys are just against calendaring and scheduling because they say, man, I just want to live life as it comes. I just want to adjust and call audibles as it comes. And that's okay, but I really want to encourage you, there's some things in your life you need to be proactive in doing. One of those is an 8-day week. I jokingly call it that because as my staff, when I told our staff, like, look, you can have 2 days off as long as you work 6. And I realized there's 7 days in a week, but what I was playing off of is all about time and how you schedule your time. What I encourage our people to do is to start working early. And I would, because I was working on a doctorate at a time, I went into the office early. I'd get up at 5 and I'd go into the office at 6 and work from 6 to 8 on that particular doctoral project. And what I found was when I did that, I got an incredible amount of work done from 6 to 8 because there were no distractions. There were typically no one calling me from 6 to 8. I wasn't missing any family time. I wasn't missing, not one of my kids had a ball game from 6 to 8 in the morning. And what I found was that became the most productive time I had. And so as I finished that doctorate project and went on, I just kept in a habit of going in at 6 o'clock and gaining an extra 2 hours. Now, where I come up with the 8-day week is if you go in early on Monday, gain the extra 2 hours, and where I get that is the average leader, and I say in my world, pastor at the time, would go in around 8 or 8:30. I would go in at 6 and I would gain 2 hours on that guy, on the average pastor, say on Monday. 2 more hours on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, and 2 on Thursday. And therefore, you get 8 hours, a whole extra day in your week that most don't have. Now, I blame that on, I had a 2.4 GPA in college. It's not making a joke. That's actually fact. And I had to work harder to keep up with the guys who were smarter. And what I found in my church, when I would show up at the hospital at 6, 6:30 or 7 to visit a patient, and it was actually a great time because they're making a shift change. But not only did the person appreciate the visit, but they would also tell others, my word, bless his heart, pastor was here at 6 o'clock, to visit me. And I was able to get a cascade so many more things out of making the most of that time. What I found when I was going to meet with a strategic leader and say, hey, look, I'll meet you at 6 o'clock for breakfast or 6:30 and get those hard discussions often, sometimes confrontations off my list of things to do. It was so much more productive. I've read one particular time management article about the importance of the things that cause the most stress in your life. This one particular guy would list everything he had to do in a day, but he would use 2 different colors of ink. And he would use red ink for the things that caused the most stress or angst in his day, and blue for the things that did not cause much stress. And what he said, he made a practice of doing the red things before 10 o'clock. Because he was most rested, refreshed, and focused. And if he knocked those out by 10, it made the rest of his day much better if he get through the hardest things first. I just want to encourage you to make the very most of your time. You've got a limited amount of time. And you have some precious people in your life that deserve the best time you have. And I want to encourage you, whatever you do right now, whatever age you are, make the most of this week, next month, next year, and the years to follow by proactively scheduling some things. I've got blocks of time scheduled on my calendar for vacations in 2023 and 2024. Do I know exactly when we're going to go? No, but I block 2 or 3 times as much time as I need so that I've got the flexibility to make that happen. I have set aside time for my wife and date nights and all. I've booked twice as many on my calendar so that I have the flexibility to make sure that one of those happens on a particular week per se. So I just want to encourage you, you've got to think ahead. There was a book I've recently read called The 12-Week Year, and it says about get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. And the whole idea behind the book is typically people have yearly goals, and they're not as focused on those goals or honed in on those goals until the last few months. The idea here is you set up 12-week goals or quarterly goals. What is the 1, 2, or 3 things you want to accomplish in the next 90 days? What's the most important thing to accomplish in that 90 days? And set your sights on that. He says if you do 12-week goals instead of the 1-year goal, you're going to accomplish much more instead of kind of drifting through those first earlier months. And it's something we're going to transition our entire organization on, 12 weeks goal. And the idea, 12 weeks quarterly, that equals 48. There's 4 weeks in between so you can review the last 12 weeks and you can launch the next 12 weeks. All of this is say, an 8-day week, starting early, making the most of your time, will not only help you be more effective, more successful, but will preserve the most important relationships in your life, and that is your wife, your spouse, your children, and those you cherish the most, and most importantly, your time with the Lord.